Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Welcome to Game Over Montreal, and I apologize, I've got Kay off the screen, but I'm going to fix that in a second. There we go. Welcome, Kay Imam, to Game Over Montreal. I'm so excited about this. It's going to be a
I'm
really fun
also
show.
really
Yeah.
excited about this.
So obviously we've got a lot to talk about tonight. A little bit of a disappointing result for the Habs, but that's okay because Guhle Nation was served tonight. Another great game from Kaden. Now, a goal and 3 assists. I don't know if he was on for any of the goals after in the third period there. I didn't check. I didn't have a chance. But he was at one point +6, averaging 22 minutes a night after missing preseason with an appendectomy. Okay, as the leader of Guhle Nation, how do you feel about Kaden Guhle's game right now?
I'm feeling so good. Obviously, I'm just really excited that it seems like it's working out for him. I think we've all Marc especially, had reservations about him playing on his offside. But I think especially the pairing of Hutson and Guhle is really working because Hutson doesn't play like a standard defenseman. So I think that plus I know Guhle mentioned that he was working on his offside this summer. So it's all paying off and the plan is coming together and the nation is growing. That's all I want.
Yes, the nation is growing very strongly. I've been really impressed with him. Obviously, Lane Hutson is the talk of the town right now, and we are going to talk about Lane Hutson in not a few minutes. It's going to be the last thing we talk about tonight before we go into the overtime segment where we get our questions directly from our viewers, which is always really fun. Everyone's shouting out Kay in the chat here. Claire is turning it into Hi Kay tonight. For those who don't know, Kay has been a day oneer for Game Over Montreal. She's always been around, and now she's part of the show as more than an audience member. Not that our audience members aren't part of the show. That's kind of what makes Game Over special, is we get to interact live with people who are here and having fun. And now Kay is rising on up and dictating the terms of how we interact with the chat and what we talk about. It's going to be really fun when Kay gets to handle her own show as well. We're going to have a lot of fun seeing what she brings and what kind of personality style she has and grows into as a broadcaster. It's going to be really fun. But Kaden Guhle, because of Lane Hutson, has kind of floated under the radar this year. I know it's early in the year, but I'm just very impressed. I saw some scouts actually tonight on Twitter just chatting about Kaden Guhle and how far his game has come and the precision that he's playing with. And there was a moment tonight where Lane Hutson had that incredible move where he cut and beat Sidney Crosby and another Penguins player through the middle of the ice up at the offensive blue line. Very risky play for a young player to make, very brave play for a young skilled player to make. However, what made that play possible? Hutson shoulder checked, and who did he see falling back to protect him? Kaden Guhle. And I think that is going to be incredibly important for Lane Hutson growing this year, is having that security blanket of Kaden Guhle, who not only is good defensively and can back him up, but can skate and shoot and pass at a level that can support Lane Hutson as well. I think it's just such a potential, like, dynamite, lightning in a bottle pairing.
Yeah, to me, I think we started the game off, if I recall correctly, with Savard and Hutson playing together with Matheson and Guhle on the first pairing. And I think someone like Savard is he's doing his best, but he's a little bit. I don't think he can keep up with Hutson, and I think that's something that would make that was making the pairing a little bit incompatible. And I'm just really liking what I'm seeing out of Hutson and Guhle, and it's always I like their skill set, but also I gotta admit I always like a defenseman pairing where one's small and one's big. It's a funny visual, and I really like it. I just gotta admit that. Andrew, your mic.
Sorry. I was too busy trying to make sure that I didn't blow my nose into the microphone. Everybody has their favorite pairings, right? And everybody has their like player style that attracts them. Everybody's a little bit different, I find. For me, watching Hutson right now, and we'll talk about Hutson more in a bit, but part of me is like, oh God, I've had this feeling before. he's gonna get traded. And just think of like myself as a kid watching Patrick Waugh traded, myself as a young adult watching PK Subban, and just being like falling in love with this guy. And I'm feeling those same feels for Lane Hutson right now. I'm like, don't do it. You're too old for this, man. You gotta relax.
I definitely get that feeling because every player I have ever loved has ended up dealing with something that, you know how everybody's like, oh, unfairly was like, oh, Kaden Guhle, that's next Shea Weber. And I'm like, don't say that. Do not say that. I don't want to. No, don't say it.
Just calm down. But he does kind of play that style, doesn't he? He is very Shea like in his like early young Shea Weber, just not necessarily going out there to hurt guys, but if you mess with him, you're gonna catch something pretty hard. And he is not afraid to throw his weight around. And I know that watching Kaden Guhle Jr., a lot of people thought that he was gonna come into the NHL and be this big, like heavy hitter, always looking to take guys out. But early on in his career, like very early on, because he was thrust into playing ridiculous minutes as a very, very young player, he kind of like held that within himself. And there's moments where he exerts himself physically, but he doesn't go out of his way to make the big hits. Usually, he's played a very contained game, and I think that's actually for the better. That constantly seeking the big hits, we've seen that from players young in their careers, and it's very exciting. You know, we'll always have that Subban lining up Brad Marchand hit that somehow killed the audio on CBC, and now that clip is like legendary, right? But PK Subban became a better player when he stopped doing that big hit, and I think Kaden Guhle figured that out very quickly. And I don't think that that guy who's going to run around smashing people is actually going to show up in the NHL. He's just going to be a very tough guy to deal with and play a very contained game with, you know, a way more offensive talent than people give him credit for. I want to say that as well.
Something that I think also didn't help was the big minutes, and we saw, you know, some of the injuries happen, and I think he was really careful to kind of not shy away from contact, but to kind of put himself in the best situations he could. And again, I think that's something that he talked about working over the summer about. Just I've noticed him get more physical this year so far, and as a enjoyer of that kind of defenseman, obviously I noticed, and I've just it's so exciting to see the growth. It doesn't feel like he's reached anywhere near where he can be, and I love that.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about Guhle is you're right. It doesn't feel like he's reached a peak, and you know he's 22 years old, so it's reasonable that he hasn't. But the growth year over year is really, really impressive. And there were stretches last year where he struggled, but overall, you look at the change in his own personal on ice metrics from year one to year two, it's astonishing. Like there's very few players who can make leaps like that without a change in deployment that is significantly easier. And he didn't really get that. You know, like Matheson played all year last year, but Kaden Guhle's still the guy that Martin St. Louis like taps on the shoulder and says like, go out there. This is when we need to defend that lead. We need to shut down that guy. Sometimes Savard gets those shifts, but I think everyone knows Savard is not the top guy defensively, right? He's the guy that, you know, if you're stuck in your own zone and you need just a butt in front of the net to block a puck, yeah, David Savard's the guy. But if you're still trying to compete in a game and move the puck up the ice and defend at the same time, Guhle is your all tools guy that you can throw out and never have to worry about.
I think kind of speaking of oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. I think with Savard, the joke is he's on the ice. If you look over at your screen, you looked away, you look back, Savard is on his stomach on the ice, just blocking shots, which you know you see Guhle blocking shots too. Um, but yeah, I think, and can I just say, love that Marty basically from his first game versus the Pens threw Guhle on Crosby and was like, "You, buddy, your turn." And he's taken that very seriously. And I can say thank you very much, Kaden Guhle, for not letting Sidney Crosby have his point to get to 1600. I hope so.
He does seem to relish that challenge, and that first game against Crosby was definitely Kaden Guhle's coming out party in the NHL. Like that was his first real incredible game where it wasn't like, oh, this kid is surviving in tough minutes. It was like, oh, he can actually play these minutes and excel no matter who the partner was. And that's the kind of thing that really, gives you the confidence. And I was looking at the contract extension for Guhle that the Canadiens signed this summer. That is going to be a very, very nice contract. As soon as this year, I think it's probably less than he gives in terms of value. For the duration of that contract, it's going to be nuts. Like that's his entire 20s essentially. That's the prime of his career, and he's signed for second pair money in the modern NHL. And I think he's a first pair quality player. And the fact that the Canadiens seem to feel that David Reinbacher is going to be like a very similar player in terms of tools and like the overall playing style, ability to do multiple different things as Guhle. You got Lane Hutson in the mix. There's a lot of good stuff in this defense group.
I think it's so exciting because I think the Habs, what you said about Guhle's offense, if that's what Reinbacher is as well, I think the days of the stay-at-home defenseman who's strictly stay-at-home are gone. This is not a new idea. I think this is something everybody said, and it's true. And I'm glad that like the stay-at-home defensemen that they are looking at are still creative and still have that ability to jump into the rush, but also have the mind to play next to another defenseman who is more offensively inclined.
Yeah, and he's got that ability to know when to fall back, but not to do it so much that he's impacting the amount of offense that the team can produce, right? Because there's players who play that safe game and can insulate you a little bit defensively, but because they're so conservative, they kind of cut the offense a little bit. And I don't think Kaden Guhle is going to be that player. He has a very good like instinct for when to jump in, when to fall back. You rarely see him get caught, and if he does, he's a good enough skater. He's not Mike Matheson, but he's a good enough skater to get back in plays and strong enough to kind of force his way back in when he doesn't have body position, which is always a good thing. And AD in the chat mentions like not to forget that he's also doing all this from his offside. Like that's pretty crazy. And I know you mentioned it earlier, Kate, because you brought up Marc, and he's always on the offside thing, but he is doing it on his offside. That's really impressive for a defenseman. Like the amount of times that he has to corral pucks, although it does help to have Lane Hutson there. I think between the two of them, the effect on the transition game that they have for that first line, especially when they're all out there together, it's fast. Like their ability to get up the ice and create chances is really, really interesting.
I just I had a petty moment this summer, as I tend to. I had a moment where people were being a little bit like, let's trade Guhle. And I, in my very characteristic Guhle Nation mood, went really petty. And I was like, he shouldn't sign a contract until he's allowed to play on his rights, on the side that he belongs. And then everybody will see how good he is. And you know what? He's proving how good he is even on his offside. So I think it's a big win for Guhle Nation either way. And I'm glad he signed the contract because I think the entire kind of group of players that we have signed is just so exciting. And I'm glad that nobody was held hostage in negotiations. You know what I mean?
Are you telling me, Kay, that you can have a negotiation with an RFA without trying to publicly embarrass them and like rip them to shreds in the media and call them lazy and all this stuff? You can do that?
I recently learned about this. I read a few books, many books actually, and that's how I had to learn. It's not simple at all.
Well, we're going to have to learn about that a little bit more because I'd like to hear more about it. I am seeing some questions in the chat. I want to remind folks that if you have questions that are off topic, please hold them until the end here. We have an overtime segment after our 3 periods here, and that's when we open it up to the chat for off-topic questions. But of course, if you have something to contribute with the topic at hand, definitely throw it in there. We will shout you out. If you have something interesting to say, we'll definitely bring it up, especially if it contributes to something that we're saying. But for now, make sure that you smash the like button on this stream. And hey, if you really want to help us out, you can also share the show because we're coming back here from ground zero. I mean, that's probably not the best term to use, but from zero, basically starting over again We don't have the 90,000+ subscribers at SDPN that we used to have. So it really helps us if you like the stream, because we're slaves to the algorithm, as everyone is in the media industry these days, especially on social media. So share the stream, smash like, hit subscribe, and you'll help us out here. And in the meantime, if you're bored tomorrow morning and you've already watched this show, you can go over to the Game Over Network channel and check out Hyperdrive Hockey. Maxime Van Hout and Daphne Malbouf are back again this week. They have another show premiering tomorrow afternoon. I believe Kevin Laramie is back, which should be fun. And there's lots that they're going to do on that show that's really interesting and exciting. They're covering the whole hockey world at large with a Canadian focus, and doing it in a way that I don't think we've seen from anyone else, especially in Anglo media. So definitely check that out. All right, Kay, let's shift into the second period here, where we talk about like ongoing stories. The last couple of games.
What, you mean you won't let me talk about Guhle the entire show?
We can go back to it
I
as
want
much as we
off.
want.
I want off this.
The Guhle show. No, I'm going to switch to another one of your favorites. The last two games have been a marked improvement for one Nick Suzuki. I have a theory. This is my theory. Nick Suzuki played too many preseason games. I think he only got into 2. Now, I'm not saying that they should always play Nick Suzuki, but I think Nick Suzuki likes to be played all the time and never miss a game. And I think that the way that preseason went, where they immediately started fearing injuries to their star players, because look what happened, and then how rough it got with Ottawa as well, I think that really hampered Suzuki's like run up into the season, because most of that top line barely played after the first couple preseason games. I think they only played 1 of the last 5, I want to say. And so he was just sitting on the sidelines there, and for whatever reason, Caulfield was shot out of a cannon to start the year. Slavkovsky's looking better and better, and Nick, the first 3 games didn't look so hot, but now we're starting to see some of those smart plays come back. Where are you at with Nick Suzuki right now, Kay?
I am always biased about Nick Suzuki. I can admit that. I even thought that in the back half of the Boston game, he started looking better and better. I think it was a progression, like you said. I'm really liking, and I don't think it's a coincidence that as Nick is getting better, we're seeing more and more Slav as well. Because he's just that kind of player. I think he elevates the players on his line, and I think Caulfield obviously kind of got him warmed up, but I think Nick Suzuki just is he plays so much. He plays on the power play. He plays on the penalty kill. He plays 5-on-5. He plays 3-on-5. He's out there all the time. And I do think it's a little bit of like just habits. I think getting back into the habit, and let's be honest, I think the game versus the Leafs, nobody looked all that good except Monty. So I don't think I think it makes sense. I think your theory makes sense, but also at the same time, I would rather he have a slow start than play more in the preseason.
I agree.
That's a controversial opinion. I don't know, but yeah. I think so.
No, I'm mostly being tongue-in-cheek there, but I think there's something to it that he just doesn't like ever leaving the ice. You look at his ice time. I think he relishes the way that he's been played the last few years in Montreal, where it's all kind of on him, and maybe he gets tired by the end of the season, but it sure doesn't look it. It seems like he finishes strong every single year. There was some questions as well about Kirby Dach, which I think is a natural thing to fit into this continuing segment, because we're talking about Nick Suzuki, and I think he's earned patience in like watching the underlying numbers, and after 4 or 5 games, you're not going to be like, oh, Nick Suzuki's terrible now. We know what Nick Suzuki is, what he's capable of. Kirby Dach, less so. We've watched 2/3 of a season of Kirby Dach, and it was very, very strong. Then he misses a whole year. To be honest, I think he looks really rusty right now, but I'm not judging him harshly for it. I'm looking at last year, the patience I had with like Cole Caulfield and recovering from that shoulder surgery. I feel like as a fan base and as media, we kind of have to afford the same runway to Kirby Dach, especially considering how much time he lost. And I understand there's like a lot of impatience around this specific thing, because Kirby Dach's a very important player for this rebuild. If he's not the second line center the Canadiens need him to be, there's a hole. and it needs to figure out, like they need to figure that out fast if they want to compete. So there's a lot of pressure right now on Kirby Dach. He doesn't look great, but I also don't think he looks terrible, and he had some decent moments tonight. Where are you on Kirby Dach?
I have to agree with you there. I don't think he's looked great. I also don't think he's looked terrible. I think on that line, definitely to me, Alex Newhook has been the most active piece, I guess is the best way of saying it. Um, I think with Doc, we can't expect him to just come out swinging, I guess. And I'd like to give a heads up. English is my second language, so I get phrases mixed up sometimes. But I think with Doc, I think he deserves time to figure it out. And even if he didn't, we don't have a choice. We need to give him time to figure it out, frankly. I don't think there's right now anything. I think this front office sees a lot in Kirby Dach, which of course, if you look at the trade they made, they gave up something significant for him. So I think that I think we really have to be patient with Doc, and I think it's just a little frustrating because we're seeing exciting things happen on defense and the first line warming up, and we're just kind of waiting for the second to catch up. But I'm confident that he can do it. I think, to me, Kirby Dach, what I need to see from him is a healthy season.
Yeah.
More than even obviously we want to see him play good, but more than superstar level play, I need to see him healthy. And I'd rather just see him warm up into it, frankly.
Yeah, I agree. I think for Kirby Dach, I'm going to be more interested in his second half of the year. If he plays the whole year, what's his second half of the year look like once he's got his legs under him, once he's, there's in shape and then there's NHL in shape in the middle of a season, right? Where, it's a different level of compete. And I'd like to see what happens with him once we get there. Last year we talked about Caulfield so much and the goal scoring wasn't there, but the play was, he had put things together in a way that he hadn't really before in the NHL. So I'd like to see that kind of progress out of Dach eventually, but I'm with you. I would like to be as patient as possible with him, but I feel like it's going to be a tough sell on the fan base just because they want to get that excitement. And especially when Laine comes back, there's definitely going to be an expectation on Kirby Dach to take it up a notch in terms of the playmaking. But I saw a lot of good from him on that front tonight. He found, who did he find on the zone entry there? It was a really good play. It might have been Newhook, but it just didn't materialize. There was a few different plays where Kirby Dach was the one who kept it alive or created the play that became a scoring chance. And it was the first time this season that I saw a little bit of electricity out of Dach. He's contributed to plays, but not that Kirby Dach that we saw right before he was injured the first time, where things were really taking off when he was playing with playing with Caulfield and Suzuki. I do wonder.
He was also playing with Slav at one point, and I think that was
Yes.
a good line for him.
Yeah, at the beginning of was it the beginning of last year where it was him, Slav, and Monahan? Was that a thing?
Yeah, I think that was it. I think at that point, Josh Anderson was still on the first line.
Let's not talk about that. Let's not put that out into the world, Kay. We don't need to think about that. There's already people complaining that Anderson has too much ice time. He had a couple good chances tonight. I thought Hutson put a goal on his stick, but still Josh Anderson, unfortunately. He has some weird decision making.
I think Hutson has to learn that lesson early on. Just if you pass to Josh Anderson, there's a good chance that might happen. So
yeah,
figure out another way or accept that it might happen.
Yeah, you can't expect him to be ready for it, I would say. That's the big thing. Whereas I want to talk about Hutson, but before I do, I'm going to tell everybody about LaRouche. LaRouche is a Quebec-based similar thing to Kickstarter, but also associated with the government here. And we're going to be launching a campaign around end of November there. And we're crowdfunding, essentially. We want to be able to pay young people to break into broadcasting and not have a situation where they're working for free or, unpaid internships, all that, working for exposure. That's not my game. I've done that myself. I did it when I was younger. It sucks. Yes, you can break into the industry that way, but it's not a healthy thing to do. And creating situations like that is kind of gatekeeping media as well to only people who can afford to work for free. So part of the thing that we're doing with Game Over here is we're trying to change the demographics a little bit of who makes up sports media in this country. And to do that, we need to be able to fund it, right? And unfortunately, funding media is very difficult in this country, and the economy is not actually that great. And we're looking to partner with local businesses in our communities. But in order to get us across the line, we're going to need to crowdfund. So if you want to donate and help Game Over out, for now, we do have a Patreon that you can find in the description for this video. But if you have a little bit more to donate and you really want to be awesome, then LaRouche is coming out end of November. There's going to be a lot of goodies for supporting us. There's all sorts of cool stuff that we're dreaming up that we can give away, including merch, including private boxing lessons with myself, which is something that's going to be really fun. You can come hang out and punch some pads and some bags with me. That's always cool. But keep that in mind. We'll have the LaRouche link up for you as soon as we possibly can. As of right now, just keep it in the back of your mind. And if you have some money to throw to us to help us along, the Patreon is in the bio. All right, I'm going to switch to the third period here. Okay, and we're going to talk about my new fave. In your words, I'd say my new meow meow. Lane Hutson. Nobody can stop talking about this kid, and I don't blame a single person. It's like my whole Twitter feed is just Lane Hutson, Lane Hutson, Lane Hutson, and I'm part of it too. Like every social media app, all Lane Hutson, all the time. He's incredible. He's incredible. That move that he pulled to cut through Crosby, and I don't know who the other Penguins player was, but it's like every single game you could do a 5-minute highlight pack of his 20 minutes. You know, it's just unreal. And I think when we're talking about Hutson, I think prepare yourself, everyone, for constant conversations about using space and dictating space, because this is what sets him apart from basically every defenseman in the NHL right now. Like the skating is a skill that allows him to do this. The mobility that he has in his body to like shimmy shake people out of their drawers, it's incredible. But more than anything, what Lane Hutson does better than 99.9% of hockey players in the world, at least, is find space, whether it's for his teammates or himself. He reads where people are going to go and what space is going to become available extraordinarily fast. Now, you can watch it in the offensive zone, but it's there in the defensive zone too. When he gets the puck, watch how quick he moves it. I think this is going to be the dominant conversation as the season goes on around Lane Hutson, is going to be about how he utilizes space to create plays.
I think something that like really ties into that is the confidence you see in Hudson's game. Um, I mean, one of the fun things that he said in a post game was, I think he mentioned how much he likes how much hockey he has to play in the NHL.
Yes.
Which is something that like NCAA like players you see definitely that being an adjustment because it is a lot more. But he was like, I love this, and I was like, you go, bud. But yeah, he's just so smart. He's such a smart player. And you see him having the confidence to kind of go for what he sees. I don't feel like he's a player who's hesitant. And I think that's hard for a rookie. And I really, really hope he's able to keep that confidence. And I think Marty has been, I know we're all clamoring for him on Power Play 1, but I think Marty has been giving him a lot as a rookie. So much ice time, so many situations. Near the end, even, I believe with the empty net, he was out there. So you see Marty giving him a lot of opportunities, and I think that that's just really good for a player like him because you can't cap that. You can't be like Marc Bergevin about it. You know what I mean?
No, you can't. And I'm gonna kick J Money's butt in the chat. He's going after Hutson and saying stupid things like Josh Anderson is more valuable than Demidov. Listen, buddy, the trolling is weak. You're trying too hard. We know. The level of talent is obscene, but the hockey brain is what blows me away. I think that's, more and more what I really have come to understand about myself. What I appreciate in hockey is like, yes, that dynamic skating ability is really fun, and the stick handling is really fun. A great shooter is fun, great passer is fun, but I like seeing the guys who can set the table. I think that's what attracts me to Nick Suzuki as well. A guy that can see the whole ice and figure out 5 moves ahead what he wants to do, and nobody else understands yet what he wants to do. He's going to figure out a way to accomplish that without it necessarily being too complicated. He's going to put himself in a space and draw people to him in order to make somebody else open. It's that thinking ahead that I think when it comes to like the playoffs, those players are just so utterly valuable because they're able to keep their head when things are so intense. And that's what I look forward to about Hutson. Like I probably shouldn't be doing the comparison to PK Subban too much, but I see so much of it. The way that he changes the dynamic of the team, like when he's on the ice, everything is just a little bit easier, a little bit smoother at both ends of the ice. I'm so excited to see where this kid can go. I said on the last show, I think he's going to win the Calder this year. And I haven't been swayed by that at all.
Well, yeah, I also believe that. I think it would just be really fun. I like believing in general. I think it's a lot of fun to believe in our prospects. And I think not to like jump ahead to years from now, but like Demidov, Suzuki, and Hutson on ice at the same time.
Oh, man.
Ooh, can you imagine the big brain content that's happening at that time? Because I obviously I'm not a scout, but I've watched and read a lot, and it seems like Demidov is a very creative player who has that same kind of smarts on ice. And I think him, Nick, and Hutson together, oh, that's gonna be so good.
Oh, God. And then you can put like Caulfield out there to finish, like Caulfield and Slav to just bully people. Like it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I think that's the biggest thing about this team that has me excited is you can see what it's going to be. And like right now, I will say right now, I'm not too impressed with the 5-on-5 play through 4 games, but there's so much going on positive that I'm not too worried about it. Because I think their expected goals share after 4 games is like in the 30s, which is not good at all. And these they've won 2 out of 4, but they probably haven't necessarily deserved that outside of, heroic performances by individual players. Oh, sorry, I lost Kay again there. I switched to display capture instead of window capture to make OBS run smoother. And so if I click off of the window that I'm on, it goes to a different window. So that's what's going on. But, there's just so many good things happening, so many pieces slotting into place that it's easy to gloss over the fact that they are playing well at 5-on-5. And the power play looks pretty good for the first time in forever. So it allows you to move past that stuff. But I would really like to see them start games a little bit better. This is the 4th straight game where they started really crappy. Did I lose you, Kay? Yeah, I did. I don't know why it's not coming through anymore. Hold on. I will just add you back in, I guess. I'm not sure why that happened. Try again. No. Properties. Display capture. Yes. Try to switch to window capture then. See if that works. Discord. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know why this isn't working. Display capture. Yeah. There we go. Now we're back. All right, Kay. Can you say something? Oh, I lost your audio. Are you doing the push to talk? Nope. It's not coming through. Discord's being a jerk for us today, guys. Unfortunately, it's just not letting Kay talk, which is not what we want at all. Unfortunate. All right, well, let's shift to the overtime segment. And yeah, as people are saying, she's back. Unfortunately, her audio is not coming through, folks. Maybe we can get it working here. Okay, maybe like do what you did last time. Like hop out of the Discord room and hop back in, and then maybe it'll reset. Make sure we select your audio settings. In the meantime, I will switch to the presser, which means if you have questions for Kay and I please hit us up. We are here to answer them. If you have any questions that were about what we talked about or about the game in general, shoot us over a text there. And yes,
Can you hear me?
I can. Kay's audio is
Okay,
back.
perfect.
All right.
I'm back.
It is time to talk to our stream chat. All right. Bernardo says she's just contemplating what you're saying. Trust me, she thinks a lot faster than that frozen screen. If I get Kay that frozen.
Just real quick, can I mention I love that they didn't lose the game in the second period. I'm glad they lost it in the third, which is new.
Yes, that's true. And I feel like, it's been years now with St. Louis where we talk about the fact that they never give up. And tonight's game could have been a game very easily where you give up, you get behind early and things don't work out for you. Lars Eller scores 2. But at a certain point, the never giving up thing is going to be, why don't they start earlier? When the expectations change, it's going to be, why are they always getting behind? And I'd like to see some improvement there. I'd like to see them start a lot better than they did tonight. I thought they looked, it's a weird thing because I feel like they're not starting with no focus. It's like they only are worried about allowing a goal. And when the puck is in their zone, they're on it. They're in the game. And then when it goes out of their zone, they're like, I'm not interested yet.
Honestly, it was really embarrassing. It was actually embarrassing to watch the 7-0 shots. It was really funny when the first shot, which didn't even end up being a shot, but it looks like one in the Bell Center, they gave him a nice loud cheer. And it was a moment of me being like, okay, there's 3 rookies in this lineup. Guys, welcome to Montreal.
Yep.
No, but it's that's what they expect, which I get it. I really also would like to see them start on time better. Because like you said, it seemed like it's not like they were scattered.
No.
They had a goal of don't let puck into net, but they forgot about the other goal, which is puck in other net.
Yes.
So,
yes. It's like it takes them time to figure out the whole thing. And they only played really well in the second period at 5-on-5 and in this game. In the third period, I didn't think they played very well either. But I don't know. When you're playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins, which, let's be real, yes, they have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson, but they're also the island of misfit toys of the NHL. You go through their lineup and it's like Frankenstein's monster of other teams' okay players smashed together into this thing that Pittsburgh's try to make the playoffs, guys. And it keeps on failing now. They've run the well dry to keep things going for so long for Sidney Crosby's pride. Or Sidney Crosby's career, sorry. It's not his pride. Maybe it's his pride, but I think he just doesn't want to leave yet. He'll be in Colorado eventually. With Nathan McKinnon, win another cup. That's what's going to happen.
I'll let it happen. I'll let it happen.
All right, some questions.
For me, honestly, it's but can I just real quick?
Yeah.
Bunting. I hate that man. Bunting is so effective, and I cannot stand him.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's very agitating. Very, very agitating. Let's go to some questions from the stream chat here. Let's see. There was a question about Josh Anderson from Thomas. Says, my question, Josh Anderson seems to get himself in good positions, but then just can't get any meaningful shot on net. He's playing second line minutes. Why? Why is a great question. I don't know. I don't know why they're still trying the Josh Anderson thing. I know they've given him a long time to try to figure it out. I think it's just that they waited too long to pull the trigger on a trade, and now they're stuck. I don't know how much value he has anymore, because it's pretty known now that he's not going to develop into the power forward that people thought he might when he was in Columbus. The brain is not catching up to the hands and the feet for Josh Anderson. I think that's the biggest thing. He's kind of the opposite of Hutson and Suzuki, where they have incredible amounts of escapability and intelligence and vision. And Josh Anderson's got the body that most athletes probably dream of. He's big, he's strong. He's also a handsome MFer, but it just doesn't fit together, at least in the playing style that the Canadiens have. I think Josh Anderson needs to be on a team where the strategy is just north-south, be extremely physical, crash the net, and he pops in a couple goals. He doesn't have like that high end shot. What do you think, Kay? Is there a reason to continue rolling out Josh Anderson here?
Um, well, I also wonder how much of that time is penalty kill because he has been given that responsibility this year. So I wonder if that's part of why the ice time looks so rich. But I think overall, what you're saying about him as a player, first of all, big boy, handsome face. Shout out to Laura at the Active Stick um for yeah for banging that drum. But I think, yeah, like you said, it's just at this point it's a bit of he's here, we got to make it work. On some level it's a little odd because you see Gallagher at his, he's not cheap either, or for the time, and what he is, but you see Marty just being like, okay, we'll put him where he needs to be, but you don't see the same with Anderson. So it is just a really, I think it's just here's this guy, we got to do something with him,
Yeah.
and I think that's where the penalty killing started.
Yeah, it does seem like they're trying to search for value with Anderson, and I understand that, whether it's to find a trade partner or to get him going. St. Louis has shown that he is patient with guys. Like he gave a lot of time to Evgeny Dadonov. He gave a lot of time to Mike Hoffman to try to break out of whatever they were dealing with and start producing some offense. I feel like Hoffman actually gave a lot of effort under St. Louis, especially in that second year. The first year I thought found him extremely frustrating. But that second year I thought that he gave an honest, real hard effort, but things just didn't click. And sometimes that just happens, and I don't think it's an effort thing with Anderson either. And that's kind of the thing for me. I'm a lot more careful now talking about players than when I was younger, where I feel this guy's a bum. And like, I don't think Anderson's a fit for this roster and the play style of the team, but I don't think he's a bum either. He's a flawed player, 100%, but it's just not a fit. That's the biggest thing for me. Bernardo Saunier says, Emil Heineman, is he him?
I honestly, I kind of love how he took that hit, which was boarding. It was very much boarding. That should not have been
Yep.
offsetting penalties, should not have been 4-4, but I'll let that go. I just love how he took that hit and was like, okay, well, you can do that, and I'm gonna score. I'm just gonna score. And I think that's just really fun. Um, but yeah, I don't really I didn't really keep track of him while he was in the abyss, aka Laval, I think. But yeah, he's just I find every time he's on ice, I'm like, okay, I really enjoy that line of Kapanen, Heineman, and
Devo?
I think it's perhaps, or it could be Evans. I think it's the fourth line. I can't remember who, but I'm enjoying that line. I think it's looking good.
I am too, and they had a really strong game tonight. Like I thought they were actually the best line tonight. I really like Gallagher as well. Some of the players that haven't been expected to be like big pieces going forward have had really good starts, and I've seen a few people going after Gallagher a little bit this year, and it's a little bit odd because I feel like he's playing really well. I think it's just like the memory of the last couple of years and the contract. But I feel like we should remind people that Brendan Gallagher has had a positive impact on essentially every single line he's been on for 13 straight years, if we include this year. That's rare. Like, this is not some bum who like got an injury and is now useless. This is a guy who got several major injuries that really inhibited his offensive capability, and then came back, battled through groin issues and I think back issues also the year after the Stanley Cup final, and has recovered his game in a way that he's a positive contributor, even though he's much more limited than he was before. This is a good player, and I understand like the cap is a real thing that we have to talk about as analysts, as fans, whatever. But I don't think the gap between Gallagher's actual on ice value and his contract is nearly as large as people make it out to be. I think right now he's like a $4.5 million player, just based on what he's able to accomplish on the ice. Not just goals, but like the whole package. He's still very, very toolsy.
Not to like go on about the intangibles, but I do think he's a very one of the things that honestly makes me nervous is the fact that there seemed to be a lot of hiding of injuries in that first year with Marty, I think, from the rookies and stuff. And I was a little bit like, is that like learned behavior? Nature versus nurture, I guess. But like, but I think overall, I think Galley's just given so much to this team. I was like, I've never been like a huge Galley girl, but like I like him. And I think you can't there's something admirable about the fact that he is so limited physically and yet he is still going for it. He is
Yeah.
still going the way that he used to. He is not shying away. And I think there's something like really sweet about that, if that makes sense. Nobody ever describes Brendan Gallagher as sweet, but I think there's something sweet about the love for the team.
We should just like really annoy other fan bases and just start calling him like our sweet boy or something, like our innocent sweet boy Brendan Gallagher. Like the least true thing possible. But yeah, I'm with you. I would say I was a bigger fan of Gallagher during his prime just because he was so impactful. And, you know, I appreciate a guy who will score with their face, you know, like put their face in front of a puck, do anything for the team. But I feel like now I'm more of a appreciator relatively because of how everybody has kind of turned their back on him. And it kind of bums me out a little bit. You know, we talked with Marc on the show that like we tend to eat our own a little bit here in this town. And I remember it was like the day after Subban signed his big 8-year contract. I wrote a column on Habs Eyes and the Prize talking about how we eat our own. And I was like, trust me, with this cap number, people are going to turn on him. Doesn't matter how good he plays. There's going to be a lot of people in this fan base that turn on him. And people shouted me down so hard for that article. Like, how dare you say that? We would never turn on PK Subban. Lo and behold, what happened exactly as I said. It's very predictable. You know, the cap ruins our perception of players, unfortunately. Another reason to get rid of that junk tool, but
I
yeah.
think real quick, with the eating our own thing, I also have to give a lot of credit to Mike Matheson for that goal, the Guhle goal. He really was a big part of making it happen. And I think it's those moments where you're like, yeah, this guy, like, I'm now running a campaign of we should be nicer to Mike Matheson because I feel bad.
We should.
So we should, yeah.
We 100% should. Another guy who like is playing higher in the lineup than he necessarily should, and that might be remedied soon by Guhle and Hutson becoming, you know, a top pairing. But you know, there was good and bad to Matheson in this game, as there usually is. The goal that I saw some media folks blaming Hutson for, where he kind of got caught up ice, and it wasn't really on him, but he got caught up ice, he pinched, and then Matheson was back 3-on-1, and he's like, I'm gonna chase this guy to the boards for some reason. And give a 2-1-0 against Montembeault. And after they scored, Montembeault's face, like he was furious because that put the game away. And he wasn't having a fun game anyway. So there's give and take with some players, and it's easy to get frustrated, but especially now when they're not necessarily, you know, highly competitive, we can be a little bit kinder to our folks. There was another question here. Second line Heineman. Do you think that's something that could? This is from Bren. It says, loving seeing the progression from Heineman. I think he took a big step up. I've kind of forgotten having guys in Montreal who can just put the damn puck in the net.
The only reason I hesitate with the second line is I want to give Dach time to settle in.
Yes.
I like the idea of him having steady line mates. Because as we talked, he's very important to the future of this team. And so that's the only reason I would hesitate. I think he's earned it, Heineman. But like you said, I think it's just really fun to watch a player score. Question mark score. So yeah, I like the idea in theory. In practice, I would genuinely just rather let the second line marinate.
Yeah. It is probably too early to make some big change ups. And also with a lot of players, especially young players, you have to be careful of elevating them too high too quick. Like you can't hold them back. But there's also this thing called the Peter principle, where like somebody can be really, really effective in a given role. I think of like David Desharnais a lot when I talk about this, where David Desharnais in a given role, if he has somebody like Thomas Plekanec to take the defensive minutes, if you also have a guy like Lars Eller in there to take some more defensive minutes, and you can just stick, Max Pacioretty with him, or, Pacioretty and Gallagher, you're going to have success with that line. But if you throw that line out against top lines, like say in the playoffs against Patrice Bergeron, it's not going to work out so well. So yes, Heinemann's playing great, but will he play great when he's playing Dach's minutes? I don't know. I'd like to see the rest of his game come together before we elevate him too fast, although he did have a great game tonight. He had a great game tonight. And guys who can just shoot the puck, they're very nice. They're very nice to have those guys who can score.
I think just with Lars Eller, by the way, how about not former Montreal Canadian, former Colorado Avalanche? For
Right?
some reason, that's what I remember him for, which is stupid because he was a Hab for so long.
Yeah, and a guy that I really appreciated when he was here as well, and I think was very underappreciated, kind of similar to Arturi Lehkonen until that the goal that was heard around Quebec on Jean-Baptiste Day. But yeah, a really underrated player. Really like him. Recliner Sports says Justin Barron's a very confusing player. I think Justin Barron's a very confusing player to himself as well. I really like a lot of what Justin Barron does, but it's not a complete package yet. I think that's a fair thing to say.
I agree. But that one goal that I can't even remember who it was, but essentially Barron, it was right. The net was like, it was basically open season. Barron passed to Matheson. Matheson missed the pass, and whoever the goal scorer was just picked it up. I saw people blaming Barron for that one. I think that's equally on Matheson. He missed. I think Barron could have given a better pass, but I also don't think it was completely unmanageable. But yeah, I am the local JB defender. I think I don't know if I mentioned, but I watched the Avs a lot, and he was a Avs prospect, so I am the local JB defender. But definitely, he makes it hard sometimes.
He does.
It's not the easiest role to have.
Yeah.
Goalie Nation easier. JB defender, little harder to work with.
Yeah, a little bit more of a tough job. Yeah, he's a weird one. I feel like what I always come back to with Justin Barron is that the problems are fixable, and the talent level is quite high, and he gets on these runs where he just looks incredible. I like what there is there. I don't know if it'll ever come together, but again, he's young. Like, all these players are relatively young. There's people in the chat earlier were saying, like, remember that Kirby Dach's younger than even Cole Caulfield. Like, yeah, these are
It's
kids.
easy to forget that, by the way.
It is.
Dach just gives off the vibe that he's like, I don't know, they both give off frat boy vibes, but for some reason, Dach just has a sophisticated frat boy vibe. I don't know, but I often forget that one.
Yeah.
Suzuki's the only one who's like, oh, that's an adult.
Yes. Suzuki feels older than me, like, mentally, which is great, for a captain. All right, Kay, I'm going to close it out here. We've gone a good stretch. Thanks so much for joining us here on Game Over Montreal. We'll be back again for Game 5. I would check who is up for Game 5, but if I move the window, Kay disappears. So we'll figure out a better way to make these streams work going forward. But I think Discord's a lot more stable than Zoom for hosting our guests. So it's been good on that front. And I feel like a higher quality picture on the output as well. So for everybody who watched, thank you so much. We appreciate the heck out of you. For people who found us here, the subscriber count is really jumping for Game Over Montreal, despite the fact that we don't have a centralized way to tell people that we're back. So what we've been telling all of our amazing audience and our amazing community is, if you can help us out, if you can tell your friends that we're back, you can tell people that that we're coming before, that we're back up, we're here at the Game Over Montreal channel. We've got a whole Game Over network to check out. We've got amazing merch at thegameovernetwork.com, which Brady just dropped a bunch of more designs. I have to go and figure out some more cool stuff that I want to get for myself because I ordered a package before he dropped the new ones. So there's lots of cool stuff to see. And then we've got amazing people joining us like Kay here. And we've got amazing stuff to show you in the next little stretch here. So tune in tomorrow to Game On Montreal, which will be published by Conor Tomalty at some point in the afternoon. Get all your Habs news Monday through Friday there. Subscribe to Game Over Montreal here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can search us up, get your daily news and your game recaps and so much more. All right, Kay, final word to you. What are you looking forward to in the next game for Montreal? What's something that you're looking for?
Always Lane Hutson and Guhle. I'm just excited. And also I am really excited for Suzuki to keep warming up.
There you go.
Yeah. Also, don't forget to like the video, guys.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, we really rely on the algorithm gods.
It's true. For everything, for social media, everything. Every tiny bit of support that you give us, seriously, it makes all of us so happy. Like I had somebody reach out in DMs the other day. It was like, hey, I just wanted to say, like, things are looking good so far. You're doing great stuff. I at first I wasn't gonna reach out. I figured, lots of people are saying it, and I was like, some people are for sure, but like every person who reaches out and tells us that stuff, like you don't know how good it feels to know that people are looking forward to what we're doing and they're enjoying being part of this community. It really is everything to us. So if you want to help us out, it would be so appreciated, and we love you all. All right. I said I was going to give Kay the last word and then didn't, so I apologize.
Bye.